Okay.
Everybody ready?
Yes.
Well, it's 12:12, so we'll get started. As you know, this week we'll be taking on Southwestern. Kickoff at 4 p.m. Here at Wilford Moore Stadium. This will be our third game of the year. McMurry will look for their first win. Last week we went down to ETDU, lost 24-15 in a tight battle. Southwestern, they come in at 1-2. Last week they lost to UMHB 54-3, but before that they picked up their first win against Belhaven 34-27. And again, kickoff at 4 p.m. We're also having our Hall of Honor weekend, so we'll honor our 12 newest inductees into the McMurry Hall of Honor on Saturday at 10 a.m., and then we'll honor them also at halftime of the football game. As always, our press conferences are presented by First Financial Bank. One other note to make mention of, obviously many of you heard the news about what happened on our campus this week. We lost a former member of the football team that committed, and he was a student here, Chandler Sykes, in a car accident. And obviously our campus is grieving, and we appreciate all your thoughts and prayers. One of our current football players, Sebastian Ochoa, currently in the hospital, and I'm sure Coach will have an update and some things to say. So I'll turn it over to Coach, and then we'll open up for questions.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It's good to be back. We're excited about being back at home after a pretty eventful road trip last week. We've had a lot thrown at us in the last several days. Certainly not to make light of something as innocent as a tire blowout compared to the tragic news that we got on Tuesday. One of our former players, Chandler Sykes, who was involved in the accident. But there's been a lot of adversity thrown our way. We've had a lot of things that has distracted our focus from being able to be just football, and football is certainly diminished in terms of its importance compared to other things. But we're grateful that we have one another. We're grateful that we have the opportunities that we have. I've been very, very pleased and excited by the attitude and the preparation of our team and the way they've practiced this week, the way that they have not allowed these kind of outside influences to affect their focus, and they've responded as well as they possibly could have. Got a tough ball game this weekend against Southwestern, a team that's got a lot going for them. I know they took a tough loss last week against UMHB, but they've shown that they got a good win against Belhaven, and Belhaven's a team that competed very well against Hardin-Simmons this past week. So quite a few teams that anybody can beat anybody on any given week in our conference, and we know that there's no such thing as an easy ball game. Every team is competitive and tough. These guys have some matchup problems that they can create on both sides of the ball. But I'm very anxious with the way our team has competed. We've been played against two really good teams the last couple of weeks and just come up short. Made our own mistakes that have kind of prevented us from being able to come away with the win like we would have wanted. So we're looking to shore those things up, make corrections, and get back to winning ways coming this Saturday against Southwestern.
Just coming off that one, how's Richie doing, and kind of then also what did you see from Dex as he got a chance to show what he could do?
Yeah, it's really devastating to lose Richie just because he's worked so hard. He's come such a long way. He was really getting confident in what he was doing, and players on the team were getting confident in him as well. You saw the way that he exploded and played really, really well against Howard Payne a couple weeks ago. And he wasn't quite yet in a rhythm against ETBU, but we felt like he was getting close. He was getting there. Unfortunately, he suffered a broken collarbone that's going to require surgery, and he's going to be out for the season. So, ironically, it's the exact same injury that I suffered my redshirt senior year of college. And so, it's a tough blow, but he's got a good attitude about it. I've been proud of the way that Dexter has grown, and the thing that he does is he can create with his feet. He's a good athlete, and he's really improved his accuracy as a passer. Just got to get a rhythm going for him and create, plays and opportunities where he can do what he's good at. He throws a good deep ball, and when the play breaks down, that's where he could be really, really dangerous. So the skills that he brings to the table, you definitely try to play into that. But we also try to keep him within the scope of what we're doing offensively. And manage what we're doing and make sure that the ball gets distributed out to who it needs to get distributed to, so that our playmakers around him can help him out, and he doesn't feel like he has to come in and make every play and do it all himself. But I'm looking for him to be supported by, really quality offensive line play that we've had the last 2 weeks. Those guys have continued to get better, and we got to get a couple of receivers healthy. Chris Martin and JT Anthony were a little bit hobbled, this week in practice, but they should be back, ready to go. So we just need Dex to stay within himself and allow those guys around him to make his job easier.
Is there a competition with him and Carlos, or how do you kind of see that shaking out?
Well, like I've kind of alluded to before, even before Richie got hurt, we've got a good problem on our hands because we do feel like we've got good quality depth. And, Dexter's going to get the nod, but Carlos is so consistent, and mentally he really is further along. He's been further along than even Richie at times. So you know what you're going to get out of him. You could possibly see Carlos, it's game time decision. If we're not getting what we need to out of Dexter, perhaps we decide to pull the trigger and maybe go with somebody else. But my hope and my expectation is, and this is what you have the ability to do with Carlos, is he always supports whoever's out there, whether it's him or whether it's somebody else. He does an excellent job of showing his leadership and showing the fact that he's a total team guy by being supportive of the guy who's out there, but also in and of himself being prepared to go play. And he's one play away, so we'll see what happens. Right now, Dexter's going to get the nod, and we're going to rally around him. But I hope that both of those guys will get an opportunity to play. If we play like we're capable, offensively and defensively, and we put all three phases together, I don't think there's any reason why you wouldn't see both of those guys play at some point in the game.
Hey guys, just a second. I forgot to introduce our players before we get any further. I'm so sorry. To my immediate right is Daniel Zarzosa. He's a senior, fifth year, I believe, right? So fifth-year senior, plays center for the Warhawks, four-year starter. And then on the other side of coach is Keyshawn Jonathan. He is a third-year safety for the Warhawks on defense.
Keyshawn, I was very impressed with the defensive play on Saturday, the way we were able to stop the ball. What kind of confidence would you say that between you guys that gives you in the ability to play Southwestern this week, that you've done so well against on Saturday?
They give us a lot of confidence going into this game. Everybody's just trying to do their part. It's a team thing. We over me at the end of the day. We over me at the end of the day, and that's all we're trying to do. Everybody's just trying to be the best that they can for the people around them, not just themselves.
Yeah, and I'd follow that up by saying, the effort's been outstanding on defense. I mean, you see the way this guy right here, he flies downhill, and he had a couple of opportunities where he really squared up their ball carrier, and he's got great knockback power, and that does so much for our defense. We were able to get a score on defense with the second play of the game. We got in there and knocked the quarterback around, and I don't think that guy was ever quite the same and quite that confident throughout the rest of the game. And they only threw for 209 yards in the game, and 65 yards of it was on one play. We just had a self-inflicted coverage bust, that was easily correctable. But other than that big play, I think you saw a bunch of guys that are really starting to get confident and really starting to come into their own as far as assignment and trusting the guy next to them and not getting out of the scope of their assignment to try to cover for somebody else. Those are classic things that can plague a defense, and I think we have gotten better about trusting our assignments. And Keyshawn is one of those guys that you never worry about him being out of position, and he's going to take care of his business. And so that's been really good to see, and I expect him to follow that up with a great performance on Saturday.
That's good.
And just with that, how nice was it to be back out on the field after having to miss that first one?
It was really good being in quarantine for a week. Having to watch your team through a screen, it doesn't feel the same as being out there suiting up, warming up, going to actually play through 4 quarters. It's a good feeling.
We missed having him around.
Coach, you obviously week 1, no game. Week 2, I know you were short-staffed a little bit, a lot of players out. You mentioned you need to get some receivers healthy. How close do you think you are to having that depth that you like to have, and getting close to a normal kind of roster out there?
Yeah, it's hard to say precisely. The thing that we were most excited about coming into this season, a couple of things rather is, our coaches recruited their tails off, and they brought in an excellent, newcomer class. So we had a lot of really quality freshmen. We've got a couple of really great impact transfers that have come in on both sides of the ball that have either provided depth or have been able to come right in and be difference makers for us on the field, even if they're not a starter. So that's allowed us to practice more physical. That's allowed us to have more competition at those positions, and competition makes us all better. However, with losing some guys due to COVID, we've also had injuries, which are you're going to have some of those kinds of things that'll happen. And so we were diminished, and we had some guys that were really excited to go see play early on and be whole as a team. And they've just been out. I mean, we didn't have Keyshawn, that first game. We didn't have Javari Seals for the last 2 games, and he's an outstanding corner, and hopefully going to get that guy back. And then when you look at the volume of plays that we've played in just these first 2 ball games after not getting that first game in, it takes a toll. I mean, Dan played every snap at center, and he was dragging himself off the field after the game because he left nothing. He left it all out on the field. And so, but I think our conditioning level has gone back up, and I think that our depth is kind of revitalizing itself, and so I really feel like this will be the first ball game that we've played where we're as close to 100% as possible. And I think that will only continue to improve. With
the events that went on this week, I know it's a little hard to focus on football. How has it been this week? How tough has it been, getting updates as they come and everything, and just kind of learning as it all comes out here?
Well, the first thing I would say about that is that, I've been amazed at how the McMurry community has rallied. The love, the support, the unity, to see that in action when the university is called to respond to a situation, tragic as it may be. It's really awesome to see, the way our administrators, faculty, staff, our students, the way everybody really kind of wrap their arms around one another and began a grieving process and trying to put things into perspective. The university scrambled quickly to put together a vigil in Matthews Auditorium at 7:30 on Tuesday night. And I thought that was just a wonderful thing for our community to kind of come together, read scripture, pray, lift up the families, and lift up Sebastian, as he's getting ready to start a recovery process after having a surgery. You call them distractions, but I call it just responding to whatever is thrown in your path. And so it's been a blessing to get to be a part of a community of people that really cares about their students. And but the show must go on. I told the team that we still have a game to play, we still have a job to do, and we still have to maintain our focus to the very best of our ability, be ready to compete on Saturday.
And then for either the players or both, you've been in a couple very close games now, a shootout at home against HPU, and then that game on the road last week. What's the hunger level to get in the win column now back at home?
It's big time, that hunger it's there for everybody, and that's something that's great to see throughout the whole team. We dropped 2 close ones, little things added up to dropping those 2 close ones, and that's something that we control, so those hurt, but the hunger to fix those little things and to get back on track and to get one in the column, in that W column, and move on to the weeks next and next and next, not looking ahead or anything, but that's huge. It's a huge turning point for us. And, I think that hunger's there. I know for me and Keyshawn it is, and I know for a fact that the whole team is just ready to get that W in that column.
And again, just when you, as an offensive lineman, as that unit, do you respond differently when it's Richie or Dex or Carlos back there, knowing that Dexter obviously has some of those skill sets or do you just kind of have your job and no matter who's taking the snap, that's what you guys do?
You know, they have different play styles, and we know that. But you know, we have our job, and we try to do our job. You know, it's always the same scheme, it's always the same plan, and so no matter what, we're going to protect the little brother back there. You know, that's our little dude, that's our little brother, and so we're going to try to keep him clean. We're going to try to keep his jersey this white. You know, we're going to take all the bumps and bruises and hopefully get him untouched or without even breaking a sweat. Just let him build his confidence and do his thing. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think we're also really close to taking a big step in the run game. You know, we've played against two good defenses the last couple of weeks. You know, Howard Payne was a team that was giving some things away that we felt like we could take advantage of in the pass game. We didn't allow a sack in that game, but because, you know, those guys did a great job playing up front. And, you know, it was good this past weekend. You know, Cameron Session nearly got 100 yards rushing. You know, we had a couple of series when we went down there and kind of punched it in to make it 21-15 and keep us within striking distance there. I was really proud of the way the offensive line kind of put it on their backs and was able to create some things with run game because East Texas Baptist had an outstanding defensive line. Their front seven with their linebackers, the way their safeties fit and were aggressive, it's hard to run the ball against those guys. And with a backup quarterback in the game and, you know, having to kind of make a switch like that mid-game, you know, we needed, you know, to move the chains and get a couple of first downs there, and we had to rely on our run game to do that. I think the matchup is really good for us this week against their front seven and the way our offensive line has continued to get confident. So I expect D-Rob to have a big game. You know, he was hobbled a little bit last week, but I expect D-Rob to have a big game. Cam Session, you know, you see what that guy can do. We've got a couple of other young guys at running back that are eager for their opportunity to jump in there and make something happen. So, you know, props to these guys for the way they've played, and I know they're only going to get better.
Keyshawn, I want to ask you about the defense. Something I've noticed in the first two games compared to you know, last year and the year before, seems like we're forcing more turnovers now, and it seems like the guys that have been there now have a little bit more experience. You're in your third year. A lot of the guys are in the same boat. And then you have some freshmen that can contribute too. So what have you seen in this defense this year compared to years past and how it's progressed?
I think this year there's a lot more leadership from our guys, from me especially. This is my third year here, so I'm able to take that step forward and have a more leadership role. And it's also what our coaches preach and what we preach as well, what we practice, what we're going to get in the game. So it's just practicing it over and over and over again. It happens in the game.
And Coach, I know it was the same thing getting ready for ETBU, but those teams that were in the East in the spring that you haven't played since 2019, what's it like preparing for them? And obviously, you know, you have some film from this year a few months ago, but haven't been on the field against them in a while. Just kind of what's it like kind of piecing all of that together to put together a game plan?
Yeah, it's a really good question. You know, I think about this type of stuff often because, you know, when you see that how a certain team plays against a certain team and these guys beat those guys and therefore that means that this team, you know, you can't get too much into that kind of thing, but it would be crazy not to acknowledge the fact that in the spring, you know, that's a team that Mary Hardin Baylor had to kick a 40-yard field goal to beat 31-28 at their place, and so you see how dangerous a team like that has gotten to be, you know. And then when you watch their offense, just from, you know, their first couple of ball games, they played against a really good Wisconsin team that game could have gone either way. And then, you know, the next week against Mary Hardin Baylor, even though they beat them 34-14, you saw that they played them pretty doggone well. And other than giving up a couple of big plays, they weren't able to get a whole lot going offensively. But you saw that, like, physically the gap is closed quite a bit. And so you try to derive that information out of the film as best you can. But, you know, after not seeing them for 2 years, you know, I felt like those guys have improved a great deal. Now, we've improved a lot too. But I thought that was a much better ETBU team than we saw in 2019, no question. And you know that with their quarterback and some of the speed that they had on the perimeter and the running back stable of running backs, those guys could blow the top off of the game really fast. And so, yeah, it was good to see our defense respond and kind of keep those guys bottled up and really make them earn every inch that they got. You know, broadly speaking, across the ASC, like I always say, there's no such thing as an easy ball game. You know, you see what Southwestern did. You know, they went on the road and beat a Belhaven team, which Belhaven's kind of a weird matchup for people because they're ground and pound offensively, and they run a 3-3 stack on defense, which is not something that you see very often. And then they come all the way out here to Abilene, and they gave Hardin Simmons a good game. So anything's possible, anything can happen. You know, that's why, you know, your individual preparation as a coach and as a player is so important, and you just got to kind of expect the unexpected. So, you know, you do the best job you can to try to derive what you can from the film. But, you know, we've just tried to constantly focus on our development as a team and executing our stuff and staying within ourselves and continuing to get better. That's really been our goal from day one, and it'll continue to be that way regardless of results.
Anything else, guys? All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. As always, First Financial Bank, proud sponsor of our press conference. And we got Raising Kings.
Thank you, Mike. Needed it.
Well done. You're a natural. You didn't get